possesses two idiots like yourselves to teach 8-year-olds that the planet is doomed?
The children are constantly bombarded with climate change. It is all over the news.
It's our job to deconstruct it so that they can process it.
Good for you. You deconstructed my little girl into a coma.
Renata, look.
That scene from the hit show Big Little Lies underscores a real problem, eco-anxiety. And research shows that stress over the environment and climate change is hitting kids especially hard. Joining me this morning over Skype is Dr. Roseann Capanna-Hodge to talk about this. Good morning, doctor.
Good morning, Hermela. How are you?
I'm great, thank you. Lovely to have you. I just want to start with the basics. What is eco-anxiety?
Yeah, you know, it's something that's coming into the consciousness of people, not just in America, but all over the world, because there are children as well as individuals that are experiencing a lot of anxiety about future climate catastrophes. Everything from, you know, the sun exploding or the moon exploding to changes in our weather, in our emission rates, in changes in the water temperature. There's just a lot of concerns about the impact of the changes in our environment, and children are particularly sensitive to these things because we talk about them, right? And children are so bright today, and they're so curious, and they understand the ramifications of what happens when we, you know, when the sun does die out X a million years from now. These kids are fearful of what is happening in our environment.
So how does that anxiety play out? You know, how is it different from other types of anxiety or something like OCD?
Yeah, so, you know, anxiety is the same whether something is a real issue, like, you know, for a child, a loss of a grandparent or a pet or any of those things, as well as if it's something that's perceived, right? So with eco-anxiety, there's a bit of truth in this, right? These bright kids are picking up with, you know, okay, we just had this massive catastrophe in the Bahamas where 70% of people have lost their homes and are underwater, and children understand that means people are not in their homes. And so that stirs up their own worries. So in terms of regular anxiety, it doesn't matter what the source is, anxiety is anxiety. What the difference is between anxiety and OCD is significant. With OCD, people often just think it's about having compulsive behaviors like hand washing and checking, but that's not what it's about. For most people, it starts with obsessive thinking. So if your child is spending an hour or more a day having obsessive thoughts about any topic, but in relative to this, climate changes, then that really moves over to OCD, which is a much more clinically significant issue, as well as something that needs to be addressed as quickly as possible, according to the research, because kids develop unhealthy habits really quickly. And so it's really important to seek out a licensed mental health professional. And there's tons of them all over the United States.
And so how much of this is about the way we are talking about climate change, whether it's in the media or whether how parents are talking to their kids? How should they be talking to their kids?
Such a great question, Hermela. So, you know, as a mom of both a teenager and a 9-year-old, this subject actually came up this week with my own kid. And so what you want to do is you want to start with the facts, right? So anytime something's really sensitive, you know, kids are smart. Again, they're picking up the facts. So start with the facts in a developmentally appropriate way. So this week, my 9-year-old asked me about when the sun was going to burn out. So he's aware of it. He's a real science kid. And I said, yeah, you know, there's theories about that. And and I know my kid and I know how I can talk to him about it. And then what we moved on to was, you know, we would be millions of years from now. I asked him if he had any worries about it. And he said he didn't. And he's the kind of kid that was like, okay. But if your kid does say they have worries, you need to explore that, talk about it, you know, explain that they are safe. Obviously, this depends on whatever the situation is. If there's, you know, fires in your community or there's things that are more relevant, you know, there needs to be more regular check-ins, but also being careful not to feed into the anxiety. So assure safety, check in with them what their worries are. And if you ever feel like you're stuck, this is what a licensed mental health professional can do. They can really give you parent hacks to really support your child in the best way possible.
And so have you seen the opposite of that, the opposite of the way that parents should talk to their kids? And what does that look like and what's the impact of that?
Yeah, I mean, sometimes, I know I'm really sarcastic. I love to think I'm super funny. But, when we talk to kids, like, hey, yeah, the sun is going to burn out and, it could happen tomorrow, and we're joking. Kids don't have that ability to understand that sarcasm. Not every kid. So you just want to be thoughtful, understand that if they're asking you, they're probably more than curious. Maybe they're curious, they might be worried. And, we all have different kinds of kids, and some kids are just wired to be more sensitive to different information. Gifted kids are just a filter for everything, and they're picking up more. They're more likely to be impacted. So the brighter your kid or the more sensitive your kid is, they're more likely to be have a sensitivity to this, potentially even a clinical issue.
Very interesting. Well, this is a new concept, I think, for a lot of people. So thank you for shedding some light on it, Dr. Capanna-Hodge. We appreciate your insight.
Thank you. Be well.
Thank you. You too.